ọ̀rẹ́ mi lẹ́ni tí ọkọ̀ kínní yìí mo ti máa ń ka ọ̀rọ̀ wọn sẹ́lẹ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀ Ajétúnmọ̀bí Awólọ́wọ̀ Ọbákọ́láwọlé so èmi wá ní ẹ̀kúnlẹ̀ ẹ̀ níbí yìí complete tí mo fẹ́ ka díẹ̀ tí àwọn kọ síta complete ẹ̀ mi níbí yìí tí wọ́n fi lẹ̀ lálẹ́ yìí ní tó gbé mi wá nù so àwọn pe topic ẹ̀ ní Yoruba Peace Treaty 1886 at Imesile that affirmed all our land as Yoruba. 12 articles of peace which confirmed that all our entire lands are Yoruba land, not just Ọ̀yọ́ below. Because tí Ọ̀yọ́ bá ń sọ̀rọ̀ nínú treaty yìí ńgbà tí wọ́n ń ṣàgbékalẹ̀ rẹ̀ táwọn òyìnbó ń ṣàgbékalẹ̀ rẹ̀ wọ́n recognize Ile-Ife as the cradle of Yoruba land of all Yoruba people. Do you know one amazing thing nípa ogun Kérèjì òní wípé gbogbo àwọn ọmọ ogun ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ni wọ́n donate ọmọ ogun fún Ile-Ife láti protect Ifẹ̀. Ile-Ife tí Ọ̀yọ́ ń bá jà, Ile-Ife tí Ọ̀yọ́ respect, Ile-Ife táwọn ọmọ Ọ̀yọ́ ń sẹnu yánṣayànṣá sí. Pàápàá jùlọ Èkìtì parapọ̀ wọ́n yan ọmọ ogun wọn kó ọmọ ogun lọ sí àyíká Ifẹ̀ láti protect ibẹ̀ pé ogun ò gbọdọ̀ délé bàbá wọn. So pàápàá 12 articles of peace which confirmed that all our entire land are Yoruba land, not just Ọ̀yọ́ below. Article 1. There shall be peace and friendship between the kings, baales, and their people. Wọ́n sọ̀rọ̀ ń pọ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ nìkan. Article 2. The kings and people of the Ekiti Parapọ̀ Alliance or confederation as well as Ibadan shall respectfully maintain their independence. Kí kálukú jókòó sórí ọwọ́ ẹ̀. Ìdòwú Ìṣẹ̀rú Ìbejì kágbàlagbà kọ́ mọ́ tòkè Ògùn wá kọ́ mọ́ lọ sí Múgògùn lálẹ́dẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ kí Ìbàdàn mọ́ fi yáyà Ìbàdàn lẹ̀ mọ́ lọ kẹ́tàjà ará Ìmẹ̀sílẹ̀ dára Èkìtì. Do you know one amazing thing? Ìbàdàn ti penetrate. Wọ́n ti gba Ìmìnìkìrun Ìmìnìràgbìjí wọ́n ti gba gbogbo ẹ̀ dégbàjọ. Láyé ìgbà náà wọ́n ti gbà sábẹ́ wọn. Ẹ gbádùn mi gbogbo bí tá ń pè ń pèlé Ọ̀ṣun lé ní Ìbàdàn ti gbà sábẹ́ àṣà den. Èkìtì parapọ̀ ńgbà tí wọ́n fẹ́ resist Ìbàdàn wọ́n kọ́kọ́ appeal sí Ìgbàjọ ẹjọ́ ìwà ẹ darapọ̀ mọ́ wa ìkan náà ní wa because Ìgbàjọ láti pìlẹ̀ ara alẹ̀ Ìjẹ̀ṣà ni so àwọn Èkìtì parapọ̀ ni wọ́n kọ́kọ́ wá wọ́n dismantle Ìgbàjọ wọ́n fagídí gbà á ìgbà tán ti persuade wọn kán join wọn táwọn Ìgbàjọ yarí sí wọn láwọn ò join wọn torí pé Ìbàdàn ló ń control wọn. Meanwhile Èkìtì parapọ̀ wọ́n ní ìdí àwọn òkè tí ń bẹ nígbàjọ wọ́n ti kọ́kọ́ rí àwọn òkè kan before Ìgbàjọ ṣùgbọ́n máa wọ́n wò pé lẹ́yìn ó jẹ̀nà káwọn mọ́ yọ̀ǹda òkè yẹn fáwọn Ìbàdàn ibi tó kè ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ ni ká ti lọ dó tì wọ́n. Okay. Article 3. The Aláàfin Ọ̀wá all Obas shall stand in relationship of brothers as before when their kingdoms were independent. N táwọn òyìnbó ń gbìyànjú àti sọ́nbí ni pé Aláàfin o Ọ̀wá Òbòkun o àtàwọn ìlú tó kù àtàwọn ọba tó kù kí wọ́n ríra wọn gẹ́gẹ́ bí brothers except Ile-Ife tó jẹ́ bàbá fún gbogbo wọn which is the cradle of Yoruba race. Kódà nínú treaty ọ̀hún wọ́n pàṣẹ kí Mọ̀dákẹ́kẹ́ ó kúrò níbi tí wọ́n wà nílé-Ifẹ̀ wọ́n ní kán relocate wọn sọ́nà tó jìn. Okay. Article 4. Ọ̀tàn, Ìrẹsì, Ada and Ìgbàjọ towns shall be ceded by confederates to Ìbàdàn. Torí pé Ìbàdàn ló gbàbẹ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀. Ọ̀dà náà ẹ̀dá wọn padà fún Ìbàdàn. Yóò ń gba tógun Kérèjì parí. Ìgbà tá a yọ ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun kúrò nípínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ ló tó kúrò lọ́ndà Ìbàdàn o. Ní làwọn ìlú yẹn tó kúrò lọ́ndà Ìbàdàn. So, confederates to Ibadan. Article 5. Mọ̀dákẹ́kẹ́ people shall be moved away from the cradle city of Ile-Ife and resettled northwards between Ọ̀ṣun and Ọba rivers. Ẹ̀sùn Mọ̀dákẹ́kẹ́ kò ní fẹ́. Ẹ jẹ́ kí wọ́n wà láàrin odò Ọ̀ṣun sí odò Ọba. That is, à ń sọ bí àárín àwọn Èjìgbò, Ìwó, Ilé Ogbó, Kúta lọ sí Ìwó níbi tí wọ́n ní kan relocate Mọ̀dákẹ́kẹ́ sí nìyẹn. And do you know pé nínú ogun yẹn wọ́n relocate Mọ̀dákẹ́kẹ́ wá sí Ìpètùmọdù mòro àtẹ̀dún àbọ̀n ẹ̀kúnrẹ́rẹ́ rẹ̀ ń bọ̀ bẹ́lẹ̀ tó yẹ ká establish fáwọn ọ̀ràn tí ń bọ̀ lẹ́yìn wa. Article 6. The territorial integrity of every kingdom shall be maintained. Article 7. The Kiriji war camp at Imesile shall be broken up and native armies and militia shall retire therefrom. Gbogbo àwọn ọmọ ogun tí ń bẹ ńbẹ̀, gbogbo àwọn tó dó síbẹ̀ kí kálukú wọn kó ńbẹ̀ wá pátá. Article 8. All warriors, armies and native militia shall ensure the sanctity of Ife, and shall withdraw their soldiers and allies from Ife territories. Gbogbo wọn náà lọ fọmọ ogun bẹ̀, Ìbàdàn fọmọ ogun bẹ̀. Tí Ile-Ife ọba special wọn ò ní máa dá ọmọ ogun jọ síbẹ̀ pé ẹjá dáàbò bo lé bàbá wa bógun ọba kẹrù tí ọkọ̀ ọmọ ẹjẹ́ ó mọ̀dé lé bàbá wa. So nínú treaty wọ́n fún wọn lófin pé kí kálukú lọ kọ́ ọmọ ogun ẹ̀ kúrò ní agbègbè Ifẹ̀. Article 9. The kings and their peoples shall promote trade and commerce and abstain from dissension and acts likely to promote strife. Ẹ̀yin ọba o àtàwọn èèyàn wọn o ìdókòwò papọ̀ ntó lè mú àlàáfíà wá ní kẹ́ ẹ alábàápín láàrin ara yín, ẹ má bára yín ná, ẹ má bára yín rà, ẹ má wá ìlọsíwájú àti ìtẹ̀síwájú fún kálukú, ẹ má gbé ẹpọ̀ tẹ̀tí, ẹ má gbé ìfẹ́ sókè kẹ́nìkan kan má kọrin kówókówó mọ́. Bí wọ́n yìí sọ fún gbà yẹn ni Article 10. The kings agree henceforth to refer any strife and dissension to arbitration by the governor of colony of Lagos. Article 11. Armistice shall be observed and promoted henceforth, and all warlike operations shall cease until the proclamation of peace. Article 12. The terms of the treaty shall be enforced by all the kingdoms until the proclamation of peace. Dated the 28th day of September 1886. So Ile-Ife was recognized the Yoruba cradle city in the Peace Treaty of 1886. Now, gẹ́gẹ́ bí nǹkan tí brother mi yẹn kọ, as you can see clearly, the name of Alafia Yorùbá appeared in the article. Ekiti and Ibadan were both required to remain independent. Ile-Ife and Modekeke were mentioned specifically for peace to reign. Modekeke people were required to be moved out of the cradle land of Ile-Ife. Ile-Ife protection and sanctity was affirmed under Article 8 of the Yoruba Peace Treaty 1886. All warriors, armies, and native militia shall ensure the sanctity of Ife and shall withdraw their soldiers and allies from Ife territories. Article 8. Ile-Ife remains the cradle of all Yoruba people worldwide as confirmed in the Peace Treaty before Alafia Adeyemi I. Listed 7 times in 1888. Ile-Ife ní treaty tá mú wá ńjọ́ ní táwọn Ọ̀yọ́ ti ń sọ wípé àwọn òyìnbó address Aláàfin as the king of Yoruba land. Aláàfin Adéyẹmí the first ń lọ highlight ìlú mẹ́jọ àbí ìlú méje àbí ìlú mẹ́jọ jáde kúò, and that is Ọ̀yọ́, Awẹ́, Akínmọ́rin, Fìdítì, ṣé Fìdítì mẹ́mbẹ̀, Ìlọ́ra, Tèdè, àwọn ìlú bíi mẹ́jọ yẹn tó wà láyìíká Ọ̀yọ́. So Aláàfin àkọ́kọ́ Aláàfin Adéyẹmí the first, yes, ìyẹn Alówólódù gangan ló list out bẹ́ẹ̀. Okay, when he claimed they are now the proper Yoruba, which has been causing problems since late Alafia Adeyemi III, continue to make same false claims too. And many are believing the false narratives because they do not know much about the details of the 12 articles of the Yoruba Peace Treaty 1886, which was signed 2 years before Alafin signed the Treaty of Oyo in 1888. We share this important historic information to educate everyone, so we do not continue to fight or argue over petty issues. Also, so that everyone would know their boundaries and all Yoruba rulers would relate as family. Anyone making false claims will be corrected where necessary to avoid misleading people, which could cause serious tension as it happened when the new Alafia Owode was crowned. He did not act like an Oba who know that Ile-Ife is the cradle city of the entire Yoruba race, and Ooni is the supreme authority over the entire Yoruba race. Alafin and Owa were mentioned in the article because Ekiti Parapọ̀ rejected Alafin's involvement and affirmed that Ooni-Ife is the only Oba, according to history, who can mediate in the issue. Ekiti people understood the whole issue and they were the ones who protected Ile-Ife. The new Ile-Ife must be protected. Owa said Alafin was his brother when they stated that the position of Alafin as the youngest among the Oduduwa's descendants. Alafin tried to act like elder, but Owa and Ekiti Parapọ̀ rejected his involvement because they know history. Peace was restored and that was why Article 3 mentioned Aláàfin and Ọwá and other Ọba to relate as brothers. Ajétúmọ̀bí, Awólọ́wọ̀, Ọba Kọ́láwọlé. Àwọn náà sọ ilé yẹn. Okay, ẹ já lọ sórí treaty gan sánsan. All right, the Treaty of Peace. The governor of Lagos had several interviews with the different envoys and messengers from the interior kings and chiefs, from which he gathered much information. His Excellency thereupon drew up a treaty, which was read and interpreted to them, and which obtained their assent on the whole. Because àwọn Ọ̀yọ́ máa ń sọ ní sọ wípé wọ́n pe Aláàfin kalẹ̀ bí ẹni pa Aláàfin mọ̀wé láyé ìgbà náà tó wá sign treaty. Aláàfin sign treaty. They play my fans. Ọba kò ṣetán, the Aláàfin envoy, however, objected to clause 5 of the treaty, which referred to the removal of Modeke from its present site, but he was told that as he had already agreed to the governor's arbitration, he could not object to any article of the treaty. Kò wá tán. Ìránṣẹ́ tó wá sojú Aláàfin gbà náà. Ńgbà tán kàdé bíi pé kí wọ́n gbé Modeke kúrò ní ibi tí wọ́n wà nílé Ifẹ̀, kí wọ́n relocate wọn, wọ́n lọ́wọ́ faramọ́, wọ́n ní kò lè sọ bẹ́ẹ̀. Ńgbà tó ti faramọ́ ilé tó kù, ẹ̀tọ́ rẹ̀ lòdì sí kankan nu gbogbo ń tà sọ yìí, ó gbà bẹ́ẹ̀ náà ni, yóò panu mọ́ ni. The treaty was accordingly signed by all envoys and messengers on behalf of their masters. The following is the text of the treaty, and I read: Treaty of Peace, friendship and commerce between Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́, the Balógun, the Maye, the Abese, the Agbakin, and Agbakin, the Ọ̀túnbálé of Ìbàdàn, the Ọwá of Iléṣà, the Òòrè of Ọ̀tún, the Ajérò of Ìjẹ̀rò, the Olójúdó of Ìdó, the Ṣẹ́ríkí of Iléṣà, the Ọọ̀ni of Ifẹ̀, the Ọbalúfẹ̀. Ẹ máa wo àwọn tí wọ́n ń dá lọ láàyè ọ̀tọ̀ gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọba nílé Ifẹ̀ o. Ọbalúfẹ̀ tí í ṣe Ọọ̀ni Òde, ó dúró gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọba. Àwọn tán lọ láti Ifẹ̀ lélẹ́yìí, Ọọ̀ni of Ifẹ̀, the Ọbalúfẹ̀, the Ọbajíó, the Ọbalọ́ràn, the Ajáùrà, the Arọ́dẹ, the Arísànrè, the Balógun of Ifẹ̀. Gbogbo wọn náà lọ láàyè ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀. The Ògúnṣúà of Modeke, the Balógun and Ọ̀tún of Modeke, the Awùjalẹ̀ of Ìjẹ̀bú and the Balógun of Ìjẹ̀bú. Whereas the kings, chiefs, Balóguns, and chiefs above enumerated parties to this treaty and to the condition and articles of agreement hereinafter set forth, professed to be earnestly desirous to put a stop to the devastating war which has for years been waged in their own and adjoining countries, and to secure the blessing of lasting peace to themselves and their peoples, and have appealed by their envoys and messengers duly accredited to His Excellency the Governor of the Colony of Lagos as representing Her Most Gracious Majesty the Queen to meditate between them. Àwọn òyìnbó wa bá ń parí ìjà ni o. To meditate between them and to arbitrate and determine such terms and conditions as shall secure a just and honourable peace to the contending parties, and have each and all of them agreed to abide by such arbitration and determination, and to do his and their utmost endeavour to carry into effect the terms and conditions to arranged and determined. And whereas the envoys and messengers duly accredited by the aforesaid kings, baales, balóguns, and chiefs have been received in audience by His Excellency the Governor, and have themselves assented, both verbally and in written, to the terms and conditions of the peace hereafter specified, and have agreed to be bound thereby and faithfully to observe the same. Now, this is to testify that the kings, baales, balóguns, and chiefs have said hereby ratify and confirm the said agreement made and entered into by their envoys and messengers for them and on their behalf, and solemnly pledge themselves faithfully, loyally, and strictly to observe and carry out the following terms and conditions, so far they are individually or collectively concerned. 1. There shall be peace and friendship between the kings, baales, balóguns, and chiefs, the signatories to this treaty, and their peoples respectfully, and the kings, baales, balógun, and chiefs have said hereby engage for themselves and their peoples that they cease from fighting and will remain within or retire to their own territories as herein provided, and we in all things submit themselves to such directions as may seem necessary or expedient to the Governor of Lagos for better and more effectually securing the subject of this treaty. 2. The kings, chiefs, and peoples comprising the Ekiti-Parapọ̀ alliance or confederation on the one hand, and the Baale, Balogun chiefs and people of Ibadan on the other shall respectfully retain their independence. 3. The Alafin and Owa shall stand to each other in the relationship of the elder brother to the younger as before when Ekiti countries were independent. Treaty gangan mo gbé dání yìí o. So ó wà nínú point tí mo kà lẹ́ẹ̀kan yẹn ń pé Aláàfin àti Ọwá Òbòkun tẹ̀gbọ́n tàbúrò ni wọ́n, meanwhile Ọwá lẹ̀gbọ́n Aláàfin làbúrò, kí wọ́n máa ṣe bíi tẹ̀gbọ́n tàbúrò tí wọ́n ṣe tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀, kẹ́nìkan kọ́ máa gbógun ti ẹnìkejì mọ́. 4. The towns of Ọ̀tàn, Ìrẹsì, Ada, and Ìgbàjọ shall form part of the territories of Ibadan and be subject to the Baale, Balogun, and chiefs of Ibadan. Such of the inhabitants of the towns have said a desire to live shall be permitted to do so at such time, and in such manner as the governor, his envoy, or messenger shall direct after conference with the governments of the parties particularly concerned, and such people shall not be molested by the signatories, their people, or allies. Ọ̀dà o, èmi ní Ọ̀tàn, Ìrẹsì, Ada, Ìgbàjọ, ẹ jẹ́ kí wọ́n wà lábẹ́ àkóso Baálẹ̀ Balógun Ìbàdàn. Ṣùgbọ́n tá a bá wá rí nínú wọn o tó lòun ò fẹ́ bá Ìbàdàn lọ o, òun fẹ́ yà lọ́tọ̀ o, ẹ jẹ́ á yọ̀ǹda wọn kí wọ́n máa lọ, ká má fi ìyà kankan jẹ wọ́n, ká má fi nǹkan kan ṣe wọ́n, ká jẹ́ kí wọ́n lọ láyọ̀ àti àlàáfíà. 5. In order to preserve peace, the town of Modakeke, láti gbà àlàáfíà láàyè, the town of Modakeke shall be reconstructed on the land lying between the Osun and the Oba rivers to the north, or its present situation, and such of the people of Modakeke as desire to live under the rule of the Baale and Balogun of Ibadan shall withdraw from the present town to the land mentioned at such times and in such manner as the governor, his envoy, and messenger shall direct after conference with the governments of the parties principally concerned, and such of the people as desire to live with Ile-Ife shall be permitted to do so, but shall not remain in the present town of Modakeke, which shall remain the territory and under the rule of the king and chiefs of Ife. Wọ́n yan nànẹ́ dáadáa ń gbà náà. So intention àwọn òyìnbó ni kán kó Modakeke kúrò níbẹ̀ pátápátá, kán kó wọn kúrò níbẹ̀ pátápátá, kán relocate wọn sọ́nà Ìbàdàn sítòsí Ìbàdàn. Ṣùgbọ́n tá a bá wá délé tó fẹ́ dúró pẹ̀lú àlàáfíà àti rẹ́pọ̀ nílùú Ilé-Ifẹ̀ tí ò ní sí wàhálà tí ò ní síjà, òun tó ń lè sí bẹ́ẹ̀. 8. The signatories engage themselves at or immediately after the signature of this treaty, or at such times as may be directed by the governor, his envoy, or messenger, after conference with the parties principally concerned, to withdraw their peoples and warriors and allies employed or associated with the contending peoples or armies at Modakeke, Isoya, or elsewhere, and whenever such allies or people or warriors may be employed in war, or likely to foster or promote war, and further, when their peoples, warriors, and allies have been withdrawn, and the camp of Kiriji broken up and dispersed to their utmost by peaceful and friendly means to bring about peace at offer. 9. The signatories bind themselves to endeavor in every legitimate way to promote trade and commerce, and to abstain from dissension and acts likely to promote strife. 10. The signatories agree, if any cause of strife or dissension should still exist after the ratification and carrying out of these conditions, which is not dealt with herein, to refer such cause or matter or reservedly to the arbitration of the governor of the Lagos colony, and peaceably and without resorting to strife or provocation, to await his determination thereof and abide by it, testifying their gratitude to Her Majesty's government for efforts already made and undertaken in their interest and their sincerity and earnestness in the cause of general peace and goodwill. 11. The armistice now existing between the hostile forces in the camps of Kiriji and Isoya shall be promoted, and the signatories bind themselves to cease from all warlike operations or acts of provocation, and to do their utmost to promote friendly relations until the governor, his envoy, or messenger shall be able to and shall communicate with the signatories hereto. 12. As a guarantee of good faith, and for the further and better securing the subject of this treaty, and the faithful and strict elsewhere of strict observance of the terms and conditions thereof, the signatories agree to place in the hands of the governor his envoy or messenger as and when he may determine such of their leading chiefs as he may inquire as hostages who will continue and remain with him on the battlefield of Kiriji while the armies and people of the respective signatories are dispersing thereof, therefrom, and for and during such time or period as the circumstances or necessities of the case may require, or to give such other or further signatories as may seem just or expedient to the governor, his envoy or messenger. In witness thereof, we have hereunto put our hands and seals the days and dates specified. Name Adeyemi, the Alafia of Oyo, June 23, 1886. Ajayi Balogun Ibadan, July 1st, 1886. Osuntoki Maye Ibadan, July 1st, 1886. Fijabi Abese Ibadan, July 1st, 1886. Fajimi Agbakin Ibadan, July 1st, 1886. Toajo Otunbale Ibadan, Otunbale Ibadan, June 14th, 1886. Agunloye July 7th, 1886. Okimba Ore Uri 3rd, 1886. Oyiyosoye Ijero, July 3rd, 1886. Odundun Olojudo Ido, July 3rd, 1886. Ogedengbe Seriki Ilesha, July 2nd, 1886. Derin Sokun Oni elect Ife, July 18th, 1886. Awotionde Obalufe Ife, July 18th, 1886. July 14th, 1886. Oramuyiwa Obajio Ife, July 14th, 1886. Akintola Obaloran Ife, July 16th, 1886. Osundulu Ajaruwa Ife, July 14th, 1886. Jojo Arode Ife, July 14th, 1886. Aworinlo Arisaure Ife, July 14th, 1886. Ọ̀gá Balógun Ife, July 14th, 1886. Ogunwole Ogunsua Modayeke, July 14th, 1886. Sowo for Balógun Modayeke, July 14th, 1886. Ayanleye for Ọ̀tún Modakeke, okay? July 14th, 1886. Aboki Awujale Ijebu, July 9th, 1886. No, June 9th, 1886. Ọ̀nàfọwọ́kàn Balógun Ìjẹ̀bú, June 10th, 1886. Signed, sealed, and delivered in the presence of the undersigned after the terms and conditions therein contained had been interpreted and explained by us or one of us to respective signatories. Signed, Samuel Johnson, clerk in holy orders, messenger and interpreter for the governor. Signed, Charles Phillips, clerk in envoy orders, in holy orders, messenger and interpreter for the governor. So, treaty no